Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to Digital Titans, and this is Casey. I've been meaning to make this session for a long time, and thankfully the time has finally come. And this is going to be a slightly different session from my usual style of videos. We would be talking about a short story to begin with, right? Now, let me ask you a question about what is your biggest pain point when it comes to shopping on Amazon, right? I mean, how long do you actually take? Imagine you like the product and you actually need that product. And what is your biggest hurdle when it comes to shopping on Amazon? If I am in your shoes, I don't think there is anything that stops me from buying from Amazon, basically because I trust the brand, I trust their collection, I trust their prices, I trust their service. And if I'm not happy with the product, I know they will very well refund what is in question. And there's a strong thought process and an ideology behind Amazon coming up with something like this. Apparently, Jeff Bezos was in a meeting at a retreat, and there was Jim Collins, the famous author Jim Collins, who was talking about something related to something called as a flywheel concept. And that's when the light bulb went off, and Jeff Bezos decided that this is the approach that he's going to follow. Came up with something called as Amazon's virtual circle, and that's our beginning of the discussion today. And that's where we will begin our discussion today. Now, what is the Amazon's virtual circle is what you will see on your screens now, and hopefully it makes sense to you when I talk about this. This is exactly what the Amazon's virtual cycle talks about, and growth happens to be the center. And that's the focus of the whole situation. And Amazon wanted to have a good seller database, right? And they wanted to focus on their customer service aspect. They wanted to fix the services. They wanted to have a big set of inventory when it comes to collection of or what they are trying to sell. And apart from that, if you start looking at that, they wanted a very efficient team that could take care of these scale of operations. So they wanted a very efficient service team, right? Now, which also means that they also paid close attention to the pricing point that they were looking at. So growth, and they were looking at focusing on these parameters. And along with that, Amazon wanted to have something called as a low-cost structure, which means that they would not be spending too much to handling these services day in and day out. And needless to mention, they had a strong pricing mechanism, a very competitive pricing mechanism. Right now, this Amazon virtual circle is what Jeff Bezos came up with, and ever since they started focusing on these things. And guess what? When you do all these things, when all these things are taken care of, the only person apart from the company that's being benefited is you, who happens to be the customer, right? Now, this happens to be the concept that we would be talking about today. And if you start relating these things, so let me start telling you what I mean by all these things. Amazon came up with something called as a Prime membership, right? Prime members had a one-day delivery or the same-day delivery. And Prime members can also access the video platform that Amazon has, right? And Amazon invested in something called as Whole Foods, which helps your groceries delivery. And apart from that, they started the technology platform, which is AWS, which is the low cost. It's a big winner for Amazon. Now, if you start looking at these things again, who is the beneficiary? Who is actually benefiting from all these things? It's you, who is the consumer, right? Now, this is the Amazon's virtual circle that I wanted to talk about. And now let's move on to the actual point of discussion, which is, what do you call this kind of operation? What do you call this kind of approach to business? What is it actually all about is what we'll be talking about now, right? Now, that brings us to the next part of the discussion, which is funnels. No, I'm not going to talk about funnels, and this is going to be a discussion where we would be debating between funnels and something called as a flywheel, right? Now, Flywheel is something that all of us are familiar with, especially you mechanical engineers out there. You would be very familiar with a flywheel. Now, flywheel is nothing but a device that stores energy. It is usually a circle or a sphere or something which is a rotating piece in a machine that actually saves energy and transmits energy when it's needed, even though there is no input. So, flywheel is usually a wheel which spins, right? And it stores energy and it releases the energy when it's needed, right? And it releases the energy even though there is no input that's given. Now, that's exactly what a flywheel does. And going forward in the discussion, you will understand what I actually mean by this. And for this flywheel to have the maximum energy efficiency, you will not be doubting that it needs more force, and it actually is needed to keep the momentum going. So, more force and less friction actually increases your momentum. Right. So, this is exactly what a flywheel does. It is just a device or a wheel that saves energy and transmits that energy when it's needed, even if there is no input. Right. Now, why am I talking about this is what you will understand in a couple of All right, so let's moving on. All of us understand what a marketing funnel is. Marketing funnel is what you see here. A typical funnel goes something like this, where you have, this is how a typical funnel goes, and you have your attract stage where you attract a lot of audiences, right? AIDA, where you try to create some interest. That gets converted into a desire. Now that actually leads to action, which is your conversion. Now it works on a typical AIDA model, right? Now that's exactly what is here. Now, so far our understanding has been that businesses need funnels to grow, and businesses need funnels to actually grow in business and get sales and go out there and start working wonders, right? Now start looking at this. A characteristics of a funnel is the end point is actually the customer. And now once the customer is acquired, that is the desired goal. And that means that we have hit the bullseye and we are happy after that, because that's exactly what I need. So a customer happens to be the end point in a funnel structure, where once you have acquired the customer, there is nothing else we do after that. It actually is the end point, right? Now, it is a pretty much linear approach, which means that you start at the top of the funnel and start driving results so that you can get as many people as you can reach the bottom of the funnel. But the problem is a lot of people get into this funnel, but only a few of them come out, right? Now, this is actually influenced by a lot of marketing dollars. You need to spend a lot of money every quarter, every month to make sure you get the desired number of customer output that's done. The moment you stop this pumping in dollars or promotions, your customers will stop coming in, right? Now, that's exactly a characteristic of a funnel that works. And apart from that, a lot of teams are involved. You have a marketing team, you have a sales team, you have a creative team. Now, all these teams deal with your customers independently after they have converted. And this often leads to a lot of miscommunication between teams, while the customer is actually left out in the whole piece, and he feels left out after he has converted. Now, though a funnel was helpful in getting customers into the system and generating leads, overall, a good customer at this stage, if he's a happy customer, he will go ahead and start telling a lot of people about the good things. But at the end of the day, if he happens to be, not so happy about your service or product, he will stop other people from getting into this funnel, and that's a bad thing for any business to have. And that is why I call a funnel as a linear approach, right? Now, what happens? Here are a few stats that you would want to understand. 50% of customers have actually decided whether to buy your product or not, even before they look at your ad or they look at your sales teams. 81% of businesses have already spoken to their family and friends whether to make a purchase or not. 55% of the businesses have reported that there is a drop in trust in terms of dealing with marketers and going through the marketing materials and their promises comparatively year on year, right? Now, all these stats have been accumulated from HubSpot, right? And so, what is the problem? The problem is traditional funnels can't address these issues, and they can't talk about establishing these trust issues. If you start looking at it, a funnel nowhere is talking about trust, right? It is not talking about customer, because the customer is the end point and not somebody who is involved along the process. So the problem is traditional funnels cannot address these issues where reviews are being spoken about, and video testimonials are doing their rounds, and they decide or they influence buyer decisions, while the actual traditional sales funnel does not look into those things, right? Now, this is exactly where I wanted to focus upon, and I left this slide empty because I wanted to show you what I mean. There are two kinds of growth any business can go through: a linear growth and an exponential growth, right? Now, if you start looking at the graph, right? Now, this is linear, right? Where this is the time and this is the dollars in terms of growth. Now, year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, and year 5, right? Now, a typical linear growth looks something like this, where each passing year you're getting actually a growth, but you also need to understand, to attain this amount of growth, you also need to spend this amount of ad budgets, right? So your revenue is increasing, along the side your ad budgets are also increasing, which means this is a liability, and this may not be a world-class company's approach, but a world-class company like Amazon would approach it in a different way, where their exponential growth looks something like this, where though the dollars revenue is increasing, right, the amount of money that they're spending is not going up drastically, because they take something called as a flywheel approach, right? Now, talking about what a flywheel approach is, this is exactly what HubSpot feels. Now, HubSpot says that customers are the center of the equation, where funnel talks about customer being the end point, but flywheel. Now, also remember, this is not a discussion that I'm picking up today. Flywheels have been in discussion from 2018, so this is nothing new, right? And HubSpot is one of the first companies to take an action on that and start introducing the system to businesses, right? Now, HubSpot's business flywheel says that customer is the center, along with, there is an attract phase, there is an engage phase, and there is a delight phase. But customer is not left out. He's involved in this whole process, and he is the center, which means that he is taken care of in all these phases, right? Now, a funnel to a flywheel transition is very important given today. Now, this is how a traditional funnel, as we have seen, looks like. Now, this needs to be replaced by having customer at the center and start looking at your engage, attract, and this is attract, engage, and you need to delight your customer. Now, your success depends upon how fast this wheel spins and how little friction that you have to stop that growth, right? So you need to increase the speed and you need to decrease the friction, and that's exactly what we would be talking about in the next few slides to come. Right, so the force is what determines the growth, and the friction is what determines what factors slow it down. So I've tried and highlighted a few things in each of these stages so that you get a clear-cut idea of what I'm talking about. Friction kills growth. This is nothing new. There is no rocket science here. So ideally, as a marketer, as a business, as a marketing agency, your goal should be to reduce friction as much as possible, and let's see how that's done. Now, if you include, a customer lifecycle along with the flywheel approach, a customer happens to be at the center, right? Now you have attract, engage, and delight. These are the activities that you would perform. And what is the result that leads to is strangers would get converted into your prospects, which are leads. Now leads could become your customers because you're focusing on customer throughout the process. Now this is the gold mine, right? And this is money. This is gold, right? Because your customer becomes your promoter because he's been involved in the process, and you have involved him in as an insider to your business, and you give him utmost support that's needed, right? But that's exactly what happens with Prime. Now, Prime members are treated as insiders. They get same-day delivery, right? And they get special advantages. They have access to your Prime video, right? And a lot of other things. Though Amazon does not disclose everything, there is definitely an advantage to Prime versus non-Prime users, right? Now that's the biggest example of how a customer feels that he's involved because you're treating him different and you're treating him good because he's your customer. Now that doesn't mean that Amazon treats other customers bad, but I'm just telling you as an example. Right. So once that's done, now we need to understand how each of these stages function and what are the set of activities that you could do as an example in each of these attract, engage, and delight stages. So I've pulled that information as well. So let's see what you look at. Right. Now this is the attract stage. Where attract stage, what are the factors that influence your force? Is helpful content like blogs, video tutorials, and other resources. Now, I've been associated with digital marketing from 2006, and I know that companies are doing a great deal of putting in a great deal of effort when it comes to including how-to tutorials and talk about Overload, talk about HubSpot. All these companies, SEMrush, now all these companies make tutorials of how to use their product so that the customer doesn't feel out of the place and they don't have to wait for your team to respond in the next 24, 48 hours, right? So you have these helpful content in terms of blogs or emailers or YouTube videos so that you help customers, right? An easy conversion path, don't confuse them. It's an easy process where people come in, look at your offering, sign up if they're interested in the lead form. If there are any questions, they can always interact with the chatbot, relevant chatbots. And these are the factors which influence the force at the attract stage. Things that could stop your growth at the attract stage in a flywheel approach is not addressing the visitor's question, not giving a damn about what he or she wants, poor SEO navigation of your website, not promoting relevant content not being updated. You see an article that is from 2016, but this is 2020. You're still showing them the approach. And the biggest problem, this is what I've experienced. I was interacting with a guy who makes tutorials for chatbots, and I was actually looking at referring to that document. The interface is quite changed. It is updated now, but the guy who was representing that company, I don't want to take the name, but they were referencing to screenshots taken in 2016 and 2015, which is horrible, right? So that you just lose trust in that, right? So these are the things that you would want to avoid at the attract stage, because this is the attract stage where you have to give them a gold mine of information because you're trying to attract them, right? Now, the second stage is the engage stage. So if you look at the engage stage, now engage leads and nurture them towards purchase, because this is where your efforts are, your marketing dollars are being converted into revenue. So you want to pay attention to these things. So engage them with chatbots, send them frequent emailers and explainer videos, give them free trials, right? And this lets you have an open conversation with your prospects, which otherwise you would try to sell, so they don't want to talk to you. But if you give a free trial, things change, right? I'll give you a quick example here. So I was using a trial version for an email service platform called Woodpecker, right? They give you about 150 emails for 14 days. You could send 150 emails to 150 email IDs, and you have to finish it in 14 days. So I have done that in about 7 days, and I was not doing anything after that. And because I didn't want to pay for it yet, right? But I'll tell you what the beauty is. The beauty is they reached out to me and they offered to extend the trial for another 7 days, right? Now, how cool is that, right? And that instantly put a smile on my face, and now I'm a paid subscriber of their emailing platform. Now, that's exactly how things change. Now, what are some of the factors that could stop people from engaging with you? Not a clear path again, right? Ineffective follow-ups. People don't follow up. They send dummy emailers. They're bad emailers. They're not personalized enough and things like that, right? Delight. Now, this is where your customers, right, either become your loyal customers, or they could also become promoters of your brand. They could become brand ambassadors and encourage other people and refer other people to try your products. So you would want to be extra careful here, right? So talk about customer shoutouts, appreciate customers, include their user-generated content, give them trial products to upcoming launches, give them insider testing options, and let them test for your upcoming launches, etc. Excluding them from meaningful conversations is not going to help it. And again, you're going to piss them off and things would take a bad turn in that context, right? So these are the differences between a funnel approach and a flywheel approach. And I hope this makes sense. And if you have any questions, as always, you know what to do. I'm working on building more case studies on the flywheel approach and how we can aggressively use it Because most of the information available is from 2018, and I'm trying to build up case studies about how a lot of companies benefited from this flywheel approach. And I'm trying to add my twist to it and see how things can shape up in 2020 with chatbots and other things in place. Thank you so much for being patient. This is Casey again, signing off until next time. Cheers, guys.